And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. So it's going to be quite a week this week. Of course, the news is what it is. We wake up to interesting stories, I should say. And you guys know I'm all about allsides.com, bringing us the news from the left, center, and right. So let's get into it. All right. So the first story that I noticed today was about how Trump calls for a major investigation of Springsteen, Beyonce, and other celebs over Harris's endorsements. Now, I find this really interesting because he got several endorsements as well. So I'm not sure where the investigation part of this is coming in, but let's read on at least the synopsis. It says President Trump said he will call for a major investigation into celebrities, including Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Bono, Oprah Winfrey, and many others who endorsed and aided Kamala. Okay, let's see. And hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. If you hear me say former VP Harris, that's because I just don't want to mispronounce her name. It's a sensitive issue with people, so I will refer to her in that way. So again, who aided and endorsed former VP Harris in the 2024 presidential campaign. So Trump first made the remarks on Truth Social around 1 a.m. Eastern morning. He alleged Harris illegally paid for endorsements under the guise of paying for entertainment. Okay. Trump accused Harris's campaign of paying 11 million to Beyonce, though Beyonce's mother has previously denied this. Newsweek, whose center bias pointed to a $165,000 payment it found made to Beyonce's production company in FEC filings. Yeah. So for context, Beyonce spoke at a Houston rally for Harris on October 25th, and Springsteen performed at one on October 28th. In the days following the 2024 election, media outlets reported Harris spent $15 million on event production. This included performances from Lady Gaga, John Bon Jovi, Katy Perry, and $1 million to Oprah Winfrey's production company, and over $100,000 to build a set for the Call Her Daddy podcast. Okay. So Newsweek highlighted previous allegations and reports of comments made to the celebrities, how they endorsed Harris, and statements made by them or those close to them explaining their side explaining their sides of the story. The Daily Beast, which leans left, wrote that the Democrats have already beat Trump in scrutinizing Harris campaign spending, which they did. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people think, well, what's going on? The Washington Times, that leans right, noted while Miss Harris's campaign was particularly star-studded, Mr. Trump did see a few celebrities backing his campaign, including country rapper Kid Rock. And that's what I was saying from the beginning. I was like, well, I mean, if you're going to scrutinize her, you could also be scrutinized. But I think maybe this is more so a question, were these people here to endorse you out of them wanting to endorse you, or did you pay them for their endorsements? I think that's where the question comes into, because there are times when individuals may contribute to a campaign, because they want to support the candidate, but other times they're giving the candidate that money because maybe they want something in return when that candidate gets into office. Maybe they are, advocating for something politically that they want to see later on. Now, Beyonce, she did not perform. She spoke with Kelly. They both showed up in Houston. They both spoke, but there were no performances from either one of them. So if she was paid just to speak, why are you paying someone to speak at your campaign rally? They should be there to endorse you if that's what they're choosing to do, and there shouldn't be any money attached to it. But again, just like the Daily Beast was saying, yeah, Trump, they've already been on this. So this could be, a distraction. I'm just saying, we're looking left when maybe we should be looking right. Just saying. Like, where is this coming from out of the blue? You could have talked about this last year, maybe in late November, December, sometime. I mean, I'm just saying, like, nobody's thinking about this right now. Everybody's on, we got Gaza going on, we got Ukraine going on, we've got this budget, coming up with oops, excuse me, y'all. I gotta sneeze. It's gonna be bad on mute my phone. I'm gonna mute. Is it gonna go away? Whew, it settled down. I do not like sneezing. Apparently your heart stops. This whole thing. I'll try if I can help it. I try not to sneeze too hard. So it went away. I'm very grateful. So CBS News president resigns amid Trump lawsuit. Now, I don't know if any of you guys remember, there was that whole thing where Trump went after CBS. It was the whole 60 Minutes thing. So the president of CBS is resigning. How are you going to resign in the middle of a lawsuit? Like, really? The guilt. You make it look bad for everybody when you're running. Okay. So in summary, the president and CEO of CBS News and Stations and CBS Media Ventures, Wendy McCohen, resigned Monday, citing disagreements with the company during a challenging few months. Her resignation comes amid an ongoing lawsuit against CBS's parent company, Paramount Global, by President Trump. That's not going to save her from being subpoenaed to testify. I just want her to know that. Just because you've quit doesn't mean they're not going to subpoena you to testify. You're going to have to come and disclose everything. And I would behoove everybody there. You better make sure your records are in order, because a judge can demand that you put everything back together. Don't destroy anything. Don't delete any emails. Do not do that. Get everything in order. Okay. So the details, the $20 billion lawsuit claims CBS favorably and disinformationally edited a 60 Minutes interview with VP Harris, former, to aid her 2024 presidential campaign. It was filed last year, and a controversial settlement is reportedly in mediation. In addition, Paramount is reportedly trying to merge with the entertainment company Skydance Media, which would require approval from the Trump administration. Yeah. It's sad. And unfortunately, we talked about this on the show before, the very first show I did about the Smith-Mundt Act. And the reason why I did is because the Modernization Act, I'm not saying it allows for a video like the one that former VP Harris did, but what it does do is it gives a certain amount of cover, because it allows us to be propagandized. And it was propaganda. and that may be their argument. But I find it fascinating that a company that they want to merge with is going to require approval from the Trump administration, because technically the FEC and yeah, this all comes back to not necessarily his desk, but in his purview of the administration. So a key quote is that it becomes clear that the company and I do not agree on the path forward. It's time for me to move on and for this organization to move forward with new leadership, McMahon wrote. Okay, that's great. They can move on. You're still going to be subpoenaed. You're still going to have to show up and testify of what you knew, when you knew it, and what was going on. And I really do hope that they don't find any emails of you suggesting anything or your bias, because it's gonna be very telling in the lawsuit. So McMahon's resignation follows the resignation of 60 Minutes producer Bill Owens in April. Owens cited similar reasons for his departure. So everybody's just going to be like, yeah, we don't agree. I'm going to just roll out and, good luck with new leadership. Again, not going to save you if this moves forward. That's probably why they're trying to settle this, because if they were to move forward, all of the evidence behind what really happened is all going to come out. I think it's all going to come out anyway. Somebody's going to write a book. There's going to be a tell-all. There's going to be a whistleblower, because this stuff always happens. It just happens years later when people feel the pressure to, admit the truth. So how the media covered it was this. Coverage was similar across the political spectrum. However, the New York Times, that leans left bias, headline stated that McMahon was forced out. Fox News on the right emphasized internal disagreements with CBS and Paramount. The Hill, which is center, focused on McMahon's reason for her resignation. So, she wasn't forced out. And, sometimes when people are being forced out, they may say things like, yeah, we just didn't agree. Yeah, they didn't want you there. You wanted to stay, and they were like, okay, you got to go. And because if you stay or if you try to muscle us, this may go down. That's a forcing. And the disagreements, again, not good. Like I said, especially when it comes back to, CBS trying to merge with another company with everything else that they have going on. I'm still surprised that a lot of these media organizations still have their licenses, because maybe, and this is me, maybe their licenses shouldn't be renewed if they were truly involved in illegal activity on the air. But then we would have to go back to everybody. Everyone would have to be investigated. If it's almost like dominoes. If one falls, then everybody else is going to be behind that. But I really do think things like this make the public look at these media outlets and what they're really putting out there. And what other people may not know is that CBS is owned by a company called Viacom. So they're not even their own entity. It's not like it used to be when we were growing up. It was like, okay, CBS is CBS and NBC is NBC and so forth. No, a lot of these media outlets that we see are owned by larger conglomerates. Like NBC is actually owned by GE, right? NBC, they have what would be considered autonomy, right? And they can operate as a broadcasting network, but they roll up to GE. That's their boss. That's who's over them. In the situation with CBS, Viacom is over them. Viacom also owns MTV and VH1 and BET, right? So they have a lot of media outlets that they actually do own. So it's interesting that they talk about it just being CBS. It's not. CBS is owned by Viacom, and it can get really messy, but they're not mentioning Viacom in any of these news stories. So I find that fascinating as well. And with that, we'll take a break, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
Good morning, and we are back. We're going to get into some more news, and I just wanted to say good morning to those that are joining me, and especially to Young Republican. Thank you so much for letting me know that you can hear me today, because it was very concerning when you said you couldn't hear me yesterday. So I'm glad you can hear me. I'm glad that you have decided to join me this morning and bringing you the news from all sides, which is left, center, right, and right. So, oh my goodness. So we've gone over, the Trump investigation for that. We've gone over the lawsuit. Oh my goodness. Supreme Court allows Trump to end protected legal status for Venezuelan migrants. Okay. Again, why are we at the point where justices are legislating from the bench? They had to do this because they don't have the right to impede it. I think I'm going to have to, pull up the Constitution and really pull up the section on treason and pull up the section where the president is responsible for the border. And we really need to kind of just dig our heels into that, because that's the one thing that these courts are forgetting. The border is the president's job. He's also over the military for a reason. So we are protected against enemies, foreign and domestic. Let's not forget the domestic part. Okay. We need to be safe. We have borders for a reason. And I know, everybody talks, he used to talk about, we have such a beautiful wall. The wall is great, but if you do not have the proper legislation behind that physical wall, it means nothing. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that play out in real time. So let's check this out, how the Supreme Court how's somebody going to allow you to do your job? This is his job. Like, this is why we voted for this individual, this human, to do his job. And ever since he's gotten into office, y'all have just been on one to stop him from doing his job. Like, who does that? Oh, yeah, that's right. We do. We're doing that here in the United States. And it's sad. It's truly sad. So the summary of this is the U.S. Supreme Court has authorized the Trump administration to proceed with plans to terminate the temporary protected status, or TPS as it's known as, for approximately 350,000 Venezuelan migrants. 350,000 were given temporary protected status. Why? Really? Okay. All right. So here are the details. In a victory for the Trump administration, the Supreme Court lifted a lower court injunction, enabling the termination of the Biden-era TPS protections. The decision enables the administration to start the process of deporting these migrants. They're criminals, by the way. That's why they had to be given temporary protected status, because if they were actually here the way they were supposed to be, I guess, asylum seekers or refugees, they wouldn't need the TPS. They're not migrants, they're criminals. However, the court suggested that Venezuelans who had obtained documentation of their legal status before the termination of the program could challenge their deportations. That's fine. Challenge them. You're still going to get deported, and you can challenge it from Venezuela. How about that? You can challenge it from off the soil, where you're not getting any aid, you're not getting any houses, you're not taking up any resources. You do it from your home country. That's where I'm at. Go home and challenge it from there. You're leaving this soil. Period. For context, the TPS program allows people from specific countries experiencing disasters, harmed, conflict, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions to live and work legally in the U.S. The Trump administration has been trying to end protections under this program as part of its stance on immigration. Yeah, because that's all illegal. It's all illegal. Just because you want to be over here. Yeah, there's a lot of countries, that are in disastrous situations. Why didn't you go to your neighboring country? Why'd you come here? You don't need to be here. You have a neighboring country to go to. Oh, and by the way, there are Venezuelans that swim across to Aruba. And when they do, they are picked up right on the shores and they are returned right back. It's a 15-mile swim. I was told about it. I went to visit Aruba. My husband and I went on vacation and they told us. Yeah, people from Venezuela try to come here all the time and we send them right back. Now, if a small island is sending people back off of their shores, what's wrong with us? We have an immigration process. We have a process. So for people trying to circumvent the process, yes, you need to go home because you have no respect for this country, period. Leave. If you want to be here, do it the right way, period. Now, how the media covered it was this. Fox News, who's right biased, focused on the administration's victory, emphasizing the Supreme Court's agreement with the Trump administration's argument that a lower court judge had overstepped their authority by blocking the termination of the program for certain Venezuelans. On the other hand, the New York Times, that leans left, highlighted the humanitarian aspect, quoting a lawyer for the immigrants who called the court's decision truly shocking. The report also noted that this move is the largest single action stripping any group of non-citizens of immigration status in modern U.S. history. It should, because it's illegal. It doesn't even exist in the vernacular. They made this up. Anybody heard of temporary protected status prior to the Biden administration? I'll wait, because I hadn't. They made it up, and they were allowed to do it, and they used it. At least Trump is using legislation from 1798 to get him out of here, and it's real legislation. It's like really in the books. Like you can go to congress.gov and pull up the documents. Really? But you're challenging to keep non-citizens. They're not non-citizens, they're criminals. Why would they even call it protected status? Do you know we have people that are paroled here in the US? And that's a title. Paroled in the United States. And they're getting Social Security, by the way. Yeah. So to these lawyers out here protecting these criminals, you should be disbarred. And these NGOs that are allowed to protect these criminals, you should be shut down because you're protecting criminals. And you're not going to say, well, they're here and they deserve. No, they don't deserve anything. They're not citizens of this country. And they're going to stop depleting our resources. Period. Now, Newsweek, that center, they emphasized the court's decision while also highlighting the potential human impact of the move. The coverage also highlighted the court's suggestion that some of the affected Venezuelans could challenge their deportations. Okay, so here's the thing. The reason why the Supreme Court had to say a lower court couldn't do this because a lower court can't tell the executive branch what to do. The only court that works at that level is the Supreme Court. And if something is brought to them, they have to be very careful how they move because it affects the Constitution, not just over the entire United States, but from state to state. Okay. A lower court can't tell the executive office, well, you can't do this. Excuse me? Really? That's like the receptionist telling the CEO, well, you just have to stop doing your job because this is going on. Really? I mean, get it together. No, I don't feel sorry for these individuals. No bleeding hearts over here. You are not going to get 2 tears in a bucket. Absolutely not. Because you have no respect for this country and you came over here jumping the line in front of people who have done it the right way. That's the true disrespect. There are a lot of people who apply for immigration and they do it the right way. And it takes 5 to 10 years. At the very minimum, we should be deporting people that have been here at least 10 years illegally. They got to go. And there are certain people, they haven't even applied for naturalization. They've been here 30 years or more. Really? Get off the soil. You don't want to be here. Your allegiance is not here. Your body's here, but your allegiance isn't. And if you truly wanted to be a U.S. citizen, you would do it the right way. Just because Biden opened the borders and told everybody, yeah, just surge the border, and you're one of those people that did that, you came over here illegally. It's a crime, period. I don't care if he temporarily lifted criminal behavior. Really? Who does that? Well, we saw it for the past 4 years, so it was done. And it was very unfortunate. We are a nation of laws, and we need to uphold our laws. Period. Oh, I'm so glad that this is going to be done. Yes, we're sending more people back. Am I all about it? Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pass on that one. Let's see. Oh, really? And we're going to look into the big, beautiful bill after we come back from a break. But I just want to check this out. Trump's big, beautiful bill passes House Budget Committee. Okay, so this happened yesterday. Let's see. President Trump's One Big, Beautiful Bill Act was advanced by the House Budget Committee, late on Sunday after a group of 4 conservative Republicans who had initially opposed the bill were appeased with adjustments to the legislation. Yeah, so when I read yesterday, there were like 5 Republicans that were against it. So, and like I said before, I was okay with that because I want them to make sure that whatever budget they're passing, they're doing it on behalf of the American people and not their donors. Because the donors don't care. The donors have more money than they know what to do with. But for the average American that's working 2 or 3 jobs, we need some relief. So Speaker Mike Johnson, representative from Louisiana, said he expects the bill will reach the House Rules Committee by midweek and the House floor by the end of the week. The bill, which contains most of Trump's legislative priorities, including extensions of his 2017 tax cuts, increased funding for immigration crackdown efforts, and cuts to certain social programs, was approved by a near party line vote 17-16. The bill was voted down by the committee by the Budget Committee on Friday after Republicans argue it failed to cut enough spending and would increase the federal deficit. Specific concerns included an instance that Medicaid work requirement take effect immediately and that the clean energy tax credits be eliminated sooner. Republicans have expressed intentions to get the bill successfully through the House by Memorial Day. So, some key quotes. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Congratulations, Republicans, make America great again." Johnson said, "There's a lot more work to do. We've always acknowledged that towards the end, there will be more details to iron out. We have several more to take care of." How the media covered it, the advancement of the bill was covered similarly across the spectrum. So Fox, who leans right, said the bill survived a key hurdle by making it through the Budget Committee vote. On NBC News, which leans left, called the passage a positive sign, but said it will still need changes before it secures the votes to pass the full House. And if it does, it will face plenty of challenges in the Senate. So yeah, they pretty much, they were fair about it, right? And like I said, this is what I really like about All Sides, because it shows you how people lean left, right, and center without having to aggregate all of that news separately. You can really see it and just see how I should say the forward facing of it. Because a lot of times, when people are getting their news, they're not aggregating their news and pulling in all of these different opinions and views. But with All Sides, like I said, I really like it. I hope you guys are liking how I'm able to give you the news and give you the summaries from these different outlets. So when you're out there ingesting your news, you really know how people how the news outlets are giving you the news, either from left, center, or the right. And with that, we'll take a break. And when we come back from our break, we're going to get into the big, beautiful bill and just look at some different sections and kind of compare it to the Inflation Reduction Act and see, what changes that this budgetary bill is making and how it will impact the lives of Americans. So we will see you on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. So let's get into this big, beautiful bill. I know for some people, that probably makes their head explode and they're just like, oh my goodness, really? Can we just get stuff done? But yeah, we got to look at this stuff. We have to look at this stuff. We don't want people just telling us, yeah, this is what I think and this is what it says. Let's look at it, what it really says. So let's talk about the clean energy production credit. So what we read in our last segment is that there was going to be a change to this. So under current law, taxpayers may claim a credit for electricity produced and sold by a qualifying facility. They may claim a credit for electricity produced and sold by a qualifying facility. Mouthful. For the purposes of this section, a qualified facility is one that is determined to have greenhouse gas emissions less than zero. The value of the credit is 0.3 cents. I'm sorry. It will seem like that would be 30 cents. Okay. Or maybe it's just 3 cents. Okay. 3 cents per kilowatt hour, generally, or 1.5 cents. Okay. So yeah, it is 0.3 cents, 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour if a taxpayer meets prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements or exceptions in constructing, repairing, or altering the qualified facility. The credit applies for 10 years after a qualified facility is placed in service. To the extent a taxpayer does not have the tax liability to absorb a credit, the credits are eligible to be transferred to an unrelated taxpayer. This credit currently has no expiration. I'm sorry, my head exploded over that. I'm gonna have to read that again because that was just like long and weird. So now that I've read through it once, let me try it again. Current law. Under current law, taxpayers may claim a credit for electricity produced and sold by a qualifying facility. Okay. For the purposes of this section, a qualified facility is one that is determined to have greenhouse gas emissions less than zero. So I don't think that's even possible. But okay, greenhouse gas emissions less than zero, like how are we even measuring this? So the value of the credit is 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour, generally, or 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour if a taxpayer meets prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. So there's still other litmuses that you have to meet to even get this, or exceptions in constructing, repairing, or altering the qualified facility. So that's a lot. Like the facility has to qualify, the repair, everything. The credit applies for 10 years after a qualified facility is placed in service. To the extent a taxpayer does not have the ability to absorb a credit, the credits are eligible to be transferred to an unrelated taxpayer. This credit currently has no expiration. Okay, so let's see about the provision in this law. This provision phases out the clean electricity production credit. There is a 20% credit reduction for facilities placed in service in calendar year 2029, a 40% reduction for facilities placed in service in calendar year 2030, a 60% reduction for facility placed in service in calendar year 2031, and zero credit available after December 31st, 2031. Transferability is repealed for facilities where construction begins 2 years after the date of enactment of this bill. So I guess if somebody started this in 2027, they can't transfer it. Okay, so this provision restricts access to the credit for certain prohibited foreign entities. Specifically, no credit is allowed for a facility that commences construction a year after enactment of this bill that includes any material assistance from a prohibited foreign entity. No credit is allowed for taxable years beginning after enactment if the taxpayer is a specified foreign entity. No credit is allowed for tax years that begin 2 years after the date of enactment for foreign influence entities, or if the taxpayer makes fixed, determinable, annual, or periodic amounts payments to a prohibited foreign entity that are more than 5% of total expenditures related to the credit generating activity, or 15% in aggregate. This provision also includes the definitions of several terms related to prohibited foreign entities. Mouthful again. I know it sounds like a bunch of gurgly goop and y'all are probably y'all are like, oh God, yell at me, wake me up, because that's a lot. But at the end of it, I'm glad that they're addressing this, because the whole zero emissions thing has always been weird to me. No, I think we need less carbon monoxide, but the carbon dioxide that we breathe out as humans, it actually feeds the trees and the plants. And so there are certain things that should be left alone. And our government, there are certain things that they just need to leave alone. They don't touch it. Okay, so we've got specified foreign entities here, foreign controlled entity, foreign influenced entity, material assistance from a prohibited foreign entity. So I'm not going to read through those, but I will make sure to put the link to the big, beautiful bill when I post later. But we also have the phase out and restrictions on clean electricity investment credit. So they're going to be phasing these things out. So under current law, there is a credit for qualified investment in an electrical facility or energy storage technology. For the purpose of this section, a qualified facility is one that is determined to have greenhouse gas emissions less than zero, which I thought was weird. The value of the credit generally is 6% of qualified investment increased to 30%. The taxpayer meets privilege, wage, and apprenticeship requirements or exceptions to the extent the taxpayer does not have the tax liability to absorb the credit. The credits are eligible to be transferred to an unrelated taxpayer. This credit currently has no expiration. So we read that again. That's what the current law is. And I can understand why they're trying to phase some of this stuff out because, I'll just say this briefly, a lot of the green energy that they were trying to put in place and, switch from coal, switch from oil, switch from those natural resources because they said those are harming the environment. When they did that, they did more harm than good. The wind turbines, they don't produce as much energy that is equivalent to coal and oil, which we later refined to get gas. The solar panels also don't translate to that type of energy. And so they had all these different forms, but they were putting them before the oil and coal, right? And the oil and coal industries, they freaked out and they were like, okay, we got to raise our prices, which raised the prices on the consumer. But on the back end, we're still not getting enough energy because these other sources of renewable energy that you're claiming, they're just not supportive. So a lot of these initiatives are put in. I mean, I think it's great to utilize other forms, but they have to be used in a way in conjunction that they're more supportive to our overall energy, not disruptive to the point where, you're having rolling blackouts everywhere. And mainly you're having rolling blackouts because you're not keeping up with your power grids. And I can say that for California, I lived through a couple of them. They're horrible because you never know when they're coming or how long you're going to be without energy during the day. And they happen a lot in the summertime. So yeah, I'm really glad that they're addressing this. So this provision phases out the clean electricity investment credit. There is a 20% credit reduction for facilities placed in service in calendar year. Yeah, we read all those calendar years. Transferability is repealed for facilities which construction begins 2 years after the date of this enactment of this bill. This provision restricts access to the credit for certain prohibited foreign entities. Yes, so went over that. So I'm glad that they are getting rid of some of this stuff because it wasn't helping. It was actually really harming our economy. It was bad. This is bad decisions. And I know some people were talking about some things that were in this bill. I wasn't able to find them. And they were talking about surgeries. And I searched and I couldn't find it. As you can see, I'm sorry for the my little notification blinking sound, but it was like, no, there's nothing in here about surgery. There's nothing in here about all of that. Um, so we've got permanent preventing tax hikes on American families and workers. That's part one. Part two, we've got additional tax relief for American families and workers. Part three, we've got investing in health of American families and workers. Part four, we've got make rural America and Main Street grow again. That's subpart B. Subpart C, make America win again. Terminating, and that's one area we're talking about, terminating the clean vehicle credits and some of these different things that were not helping our economy. Okay, let's see. I've got all these subsections. I'm like, well, where's section? Okay, so section 9, Committees and Ways Committee. Let's see. Make American families and workers thrive again, permanently preventing tax hikes on American families and workers. So as you can see, a lot of this bill is focused on getting us back to where we need to be so we can actually, get our country back on track, period. And there are a lot of people that, yes, they need to leave the country. And what some people are going to say is, well, who's going to do this work and who's going to do that work? The people that are here. You act like there's not Americans here that want to work and do these jobs. I really need people in our Congress to stop being so evil. I just want to say it's evil. It's extremely evil. I will have to pull up a clip that I saw with Hillary Clinton saying, yeah, American people, they're not having enough babies, so we have to have migrants come over here to have children. What? What? Are you serious? You promote killing your babies here to American women. You tell American women, well, you've got to be the, work to be the CEO. You work your life into the ground. And if you have a baby, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. No, it's not. No, it's not. To say something like that is completely un-American and inhuman. And it needs to stop. We do not need individuals over here that don't have any respect for a country. They need to go back to their homeland and respect their homeland. And if they think about coming back over here, yeah, it's going to be a tough road. Now I kind of understand why it takes 5 to 10 years for some people to get their immigration status. I see why it takes so long, because you have to properly vet people. But these people coming over here crossing the line, not vetted at all, we see where this is putting us. It's not putting us in a good situation. And yeah, if ICE comes across somebody they've been working here for 30 years. If they are not naturalized, they need to be deported immediately and sent back to their home country. And again, not everybody is from Mexico. I'm just going to put that out there right now. They're not. Some of these people are from Asian countries. Some of these people are from Russia. Some of these people are from Norway. And they've been here for decades, hiding out. They need to go home. You need to be on the first thing, going back over the ocean. Because you don't have respect for a country. You don't have respect for laws, because if you did, you'd do this the right way. So I wanted to look at also the Inflation Reduction Act. I know I got to take us back a little bit, but a lot of what President Trump is trying to change is from some of these things that were put in place. So the corporate alternative minimum tax, we'll just use that as an example. So it says here in this first section, applicable corporations. In the case of an applicable corporation, the tentative minimum tax for the taxable year shall be the excess of 15%. of the judicial financial statement income for the taxable year as determined under Section 56A over the corporate AMT foreign tax credit for the taxable year. So it's going through all this. But there was one section that I had come across, and it was interesting. They had the Medicaid that they were always touting, like, we got things down to $35. I'm glad they did that, but I'm also glad that they got it so where they could negotiate, because prior to that, they didn't have the ability to negotiate the Medicare prices. So that was a good thing that did come out of this bill, not just the $35. But what I wanted to find, because I found it fascinating when I found it the first time. So was it 2%? We'll see. It wasn't in here. I know I'm going, okay. Yes. So it was this base energy percentage amount, and they were phase out certain energy property. So the base energy percent amount in Section 48 is amended. And what they did was, it says in a clause by striking 30% and inserting 6%, and in clause by striking 10% and inserting 2%, and in paragraph 5A2 by striking 30% and inserting 6%. So phase out of certain energy property, Section 48, as amended by the preceding provisions of this act, as amended by adding at the end of the following new paragraph, effective phase out for certain energy property in the case of any energy property described in clause of paragraph. The energy percentage determined under paragraph 2 shall be equal to, in the case of any property, the construction of which begins January. So this is what we kind of just read in Trump's bill that he fixed. So I just wanted to show you that his bill is actually fixing some of the things done in the Inflation Reduction Act. I know, long way to go around it, but I needed to show you guys this because I don't want to just tell you that he's, kind of like line by line in it to change things. He actually went in and said, okay, we need to change some of this stuff. The other thing that I wanted to show you was the concurrent resolution on the budget for fiscal year 2025. So Congress declares that this resolution is the concurrent resolution on the budget for fiscal year 2025, and that this resolution sets forth the appropriate budgetary levels for fiscal years 2026 through 2034. Okay. Yeah. And I'm just going to scroll down because I was looking at the numbers. So Title 1, recommended levels and amounts. Subtitle A, budgetary levels in both houses. So this is going to be for fiscal year 2025 to 2034 federal revenues for purposes of the enforcement of this resolution. So the recommended levels of federal revenues are, so for the fiscal year 2025, it looks like, let's see, hundreds, hundred thousands, millions, billions, trillions, 3 trillion. And by 2034, we'll be bringing in 5 trillion. So that's money coming to us. The amounts, which the aggregate levels of federal revenues should be changed, are as follows. So they're pretty much all the same. It's going to be 150 billion. No, 100,000, millions. Yeah, 150 billion. Had to just double check. It's like counting the zeros backwards. So for purposes of the enforcement of this resolution, the appropriate levels to total new budgetary authority are as follows. So enforcement of this resolution. Okay. All right. So these are the new budgetary authority numbers. So by 2034, we're looking at 100, thousand millions, billion, about 6 trillion. So from 4 trillion in 2025 to 6 trillion. So they're looking at increasing the budget to those numbers. That's not revenue. That's just the spending budget. And so I can understand why some of the Republicans that we talked about yesterday, they were like, we need to save. So if this number if let's say this number started at 6 trillion and it went down to 4 trillion, maybe that might be better. Right. But they're looking at an increase and not a decrease. And then the section 3 we'll look at, and we'll move on and have a break. But it outlays for purposes of enforcement of this resolution, the appropriate levels of total budgetary outlays are as follows. So again, we're going from 4 trillion to 6 trillion. This number is going up. The deficits for purpose of this enforcement, the amount of the deficit are as follows. So right now we're looking at 936 billion, and it's going to go to a trillion. We need to do better with our spending. What I would like to see actually is Congress not get any salaries until this is resolved, until we have a good budget that's saving us money. I don't think they should be paid at all. And I think every congressperson should actually have a job, kind of like how you're a reservist and you leave for so long and then they kind of hold your position that you can go back to. That's what should be happening with our congressmen and women. They should not be fully dependent on a salary from the federal government. They should hold full-time positions and not have any money. I think if that, and that would take care of part of our budget because they're in the budget. Okay, their salaries are in the budget. They did give themselves a couple of raises over these past 4 years, not getting their job done, by the way, in my opinion. So with that, we're going to take a break and we will be right back. Okay, and I just wanted to introduce that segment of Tell It All Tuesday. And so far, we've gone over the big, beautiful bill. Thank you, all those who are hanging in there with me because, going through some of this stuff, it's just like, you just want to go like, do we have to? Can't you just like make me upset so I can continue listening to you? I could say all the fancy things and, do all the gossip and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, some of these things are more important that we're going over here on Unfiltered Vision News. And my name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. I'm bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. So we just went over the big, beautiful bill. We also looked at some of the budgetary changes that will be happening and how, unfortunately, there's going to be some increases from 2025 to 2034. My suggestion is that Congress no longer receive a salary until we have a balanced budget. And I know a lot of people will be like, no, I also think that we should require our congressmen and women to hold full-time positions outside of Congress. And if they do not have full-time jobs, then they can't serve, period. This is not a career move. This is service. And if you're going to serve, you need to have a way to support yourselves. The American people should not be supporting you. It wasn't that way in the beginning, and it shouldn't be that way now. We need to go back and people not take a salary from the American people. It's like you're using our money against us because half the time you're not even really doing what we need. You're doing what your donors tell you to do. Just saying. It is what it is. Now, I also wanted to take a look at the Appropriations Act of 2021. I know here it says 2022, but there is an Appropriations Act of 2021. It was consolidated. And the reason why I wanted to look through that is because the big, beautiful bill is also affecting some of the things that happened under the 2021 Appropriations Act. And one area that I've been kind of screaming from the high heavens on is the unaccompanied minor aliens. Okay, this right here, just highlight that unaccompanied minor aliens. And people may ask, well, what is that? Well, let's get into it. Let's just see. This is for and this is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So this was ICE, Operations and Support. It says for necessary expenses of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the operations and support, including the purchase and lease of up to 3,790 police type vehicles, overseas vetted units, and maintenance, minor construction, and minor leasehold improvements at owned and leased facilities. So they had, let's see, 7 billion, a little over 7 billion, which is not less than 6 million, shall remain available until expended for efforts to enforce laws against forced child labor, of which 46,696,000 shall remain available until September 30th, 2022, of which not less than 1.5, that's not million. That's interesting. Yeah, it is 1.5 million, sorry. The numbers get me. Like I said, I got to start at zero and work my way back. So 1.5 million is for paid apprenticeships. Hopefully you guys can see this because it's so teeny, and I just want to make sure y'all can see it appropriately. Let's see. Shall be available. Oh, caught up. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, come on. I don't want to see that. But what I really was focused on in all of the monies was where they talked about unaccompanied minor aliens and how much money was going to be set aside for that. Trying to look and see. So we had that. We had the department, Lisa, individual personal services abroad. So here it was like 12,908,923,000, of which 3,274,000 shall be derived from the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund for administrative expenses related to the collection of the harbor maintenance fee pursuant to Section 9505C3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, and notwithstanding Section 511E1 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002, of which 500 million shall be available until September 30th, 2022, and of which sums has become available in customs user fee account, except sums of Section 1303 of the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1985. What I was trying to find, and how did I miss it? Did I jump to another section? Sorry, you guys. I was trying to really point out the unaccompanied minor aliens. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's see. So if we go to here, of which not less than 1.5 million, I think we read over that, but okay, is paid for apprenticeships and participants in the Human Exploitation Rescue Operative Child Rescue Corps, of which not less than 15 million shall be available for investigation of intellectual property rights violations, including operation of the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center, and of which not less than 4,118,902,000 shall be for enforcement, detention, and removal operations, including transportation of unaccompanied minor aliens, provided that not to exceed 11,475,000 shall be for official reception and representation expenses. I kind of want to stop and land there on that, because how are we looking at exploitation, rescue, right? And then we get into intellectual property rights. I don't know if that threw anybody else up, but that threw me off. And then we're talking about these unaccompanied minor aliens. Like, why do we even have this here? Because we were trafficking human beings. That's why. And this section, as legal as it looks, it's human trafficking. And right now we've got Tom Homan that's, looking into these children, which is more than likely into the millions, well exceeding the 300,000 that we thought was missing. But they set aside billions of dollars for this right under our noses, telling us that they were doing this for the safety and welfare for these children. And they have found children that were put through, brought back and forth across state lines. We have Border Patrol agents stating that they were just doing their job, right? Trafficking these human beings. And they really didn't know what was happening to them, and they were not allowed to ask any questions. And they would sometimes see certain children over and over again. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the investigation of this. So, Trump administration, if you're listening, if you want to know where the children are, you go back to the Appropriations Act of 2021. It's probably listed in 2022 as well. But I go back to 2021 because that's where I initially found it. You need to investigate everything. Because, yes, they were throwing money at ICE, but they were throwing money at ICE to facilitate, not to deport people. They needed more ICE agents to facilitate this. That's totally different. So, Tom Homan, if you're listening, this is where you start. And this is where you're going to be able to trace a lot of this money. Doge, this is where you start if you want to start finding where these children were. And look at some of these buzzwords in here and see if they're in any of these contracts that these NGOs got approved for, especially when it came to the children. Human Health Services, you need to look at this because it comes back to this section right here. And I'm going to keep hammering this. I've been hammering it for a long time, but I didn't have a podcast to really get into it and to really show you guys they've been trafficking these babies, literal babies, for years and using our money to do it. I mean, we've been a part of criminal activity. I mean, it turns my stomach when I think about the Appropriations Act. And the bottom line is Republicans and Democrats signed off on it. You did this. Both parties. Our country is in a worse position than it has been in over a century. And some of you are still just standing back, not fighting. And there's some of you that are standing up and fighting. And I need people fighting for the health of this country on both sides, Republican and Democrat. Stop fighting for your donors. Stop fighting for your donors. Because the donors don't live day to day like the average American does. And it's really time to, like I said, flip the tables. In 2026, there needs to be a complete referendum on any and all that are currently in office. I don't want to see anybody come back. And there are some Congress people that I think are pretty great. I think they're pretty cool. No, you too. You need to leave as well. Everybody. We should have a freshman House and a freshman Senate. Period. We need new people in there to start working for the American people and stop the status quo, because the American people are tired of it. We're exhausted and we deserve better. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and I will see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Hey, everybody, and we are back. I'm just doing a little technical work on the back end. Forgive me. I was trying to handle it during that little short break we had, but it didn't work out that way. So there we go. Just making sure that my potential guest, hopefully they'll be able to make it today to talk a little bit more about the politics that we have going on in America. I'm really looking forward to having this individual on. If not, we can have him on tomorrow. But I want to get back to the news. But in our last segment, we're really talking about the unaccompanied minor aliens and also just, looking at the potential of human trafficking being done by our federal government and them using our tax dollars to do it. There have been many whistleblowers that have come out from HHS prior to RFK joining and being the head of HHS. So I'm really praying that they find what's going on. Again, like I said, we deserve better as the American public. We really do. And hopefully, one of those things. Hopefully, prayerfully, we will get it. But again, we'll see. Right? We will see. Because the political spectrum that we live in today is just, I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but it's kind of embarrassing, y'all. Like, what? He's like, did you ever think you would live to see a day like this? Right? Did you? I mean, I never thought we would live to see a day like this. In my opinion. I always thought as a little kid, because I like watching Back to the Future and different things like that. We were going to have, hoverboards and, We did have pump up sneakers. We did get that. Hoverboards, lights going on underneath. No, we want stuff that like floats above the air. We haven't seen that yet, but those are the things I was looking forward to in the future, and looking for a better future, not the dystopian future that they really want us in, where they think that we are useless eaters and we shouldn't really have any places in society. That's where we can see they want us. Because if they didn't, we wouldn't be where we are. That's my whole thing. It's like, if you didn't want worse for us, we would have better. Yesterday we did talk about prostate cancer for President Joe Biden, praying for his family that he does recover, because being in his 80s, that's it's a big deal too. But there was something else that happened, and this whole Brooklyn Bridge crash. Now, I kind of waited and to reserve judgment on this whole thing. Whenever there's a crash, I give it a day, because there's so much that goes on. People are fighting and fussing, and we don't know if it was a mistake. And I'm looking, at the pictures, like, you don't even look like you could fit under this bridge. So I'm really not sure what is going on, and it's a Mexican ship. Like, how are you? You're on the opposite side of the ocean. Mexico is in Pacific Ocean. New York is Atlantic. Like, what are you doing over here? So, U.S. opens investigation on Mexican Navy ship in the Brooklyn Bridge crash. Like, why are you even over here? So, a Mexican Navy ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge on Saturday, killing 2 and injuring 19. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, has opened an investigation into the incident. I don't even know who our new transportation secretary is. I got to look into that. So for the details, the ship, primarily used as a training vessel for Navy cadets, was on its way to refuel before setting sail for Iceland. The ship apparently lost its steering ability due to a mechanical malfunction and was carried into the Brooklyn Bridge by strong East River currents. 277 crew members were on board when the ship's 3 masts collapsed upon collision, leaving crew members dangling from the rigging. So one of the key quotes, the U.S. Coast Guard wrote on X following the collision, the Coast Guard immediately responded, launching a crew from Station New York and establishing a temporary safety zone. We are grateful for the timely, diligent efforts by our federal, state, and local partners in coordinating that initial response. As the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, begins its investigation, the Coast Guard will provide full support while maintaining the safety and security of the Port of New York. The ship, Kuchahatmak, we'll go with that, was on a goodwill tour that left Acapulco, Mexico on April 16th, with stops planned in New York and Scotland. In March 2024, a cargo ship that lost power and its ability to steer collided with the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, leading to the death of 6 construction workers. So how the media covered it, the New York Post, that leans right bias, focused the onboard situation when the ship lost control, emphasizing the chaos and pandemonium that likely occurred. The Independent, which leans left, detailed the ship's journey and the aftermath of the collision. It also highlighted the human element of the tragedy, including quotes from officials expressing their condolences. So this is interesting, because it seems like if it's training, then it's something you do all the time. Like I hadn't heard of ships from Mexico even coming close to New York. It's kind of, to me, it's weird because of the way New York is set up. Because even though, yes, it's on the coast, but there's kind of like a lot of ins and outs, not like a river, but sort of, right? Where there are bridges. And just like I said, looking at the picture initially, I'm like, you can't get under this bridge. And if you've been doing this as training, are you sure? Because you wouldn't have your mass up like that. I mean, it just, none of it makes sense, in my opinion. I'm like, why are you even over? It's one thing to go around New York, it's another thing to try and go through New York, where these low bridges that don't go up, right? And, stop traffic, it's kind of bridges I'm talking about, almost like the ferry type bridges where it'll go up to allow a large vessel underneath. What are you doing? Like I said, this is another one of those, doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to wait a couple of days. Hopefully we can come back to this and kind of flush out, like, why were you even over here? Like, yeah, we want to see it from like outside and keep going on to Scotland. Like, why are you trying to go up under one of the bridges? Just, like I said, just doesn't make sense. Just weird. Just weird. Pro-West candidate Nakusur Dan wins Romanian presidential election. I'm hoping that's not going to affect us in any way. If it does, it does. It doesn't, it doesn't. But those are some of the political roundup stories from yesterday. So Netanyahu plans full control of Gaza, says aid will resume. Now, I know we talked a little bit about Gaza yesterday, and that was in reference to the Palestinians getting resettled. Oh, was it Palestinians? Syrian. Sorry, Syrian. Yeah, Palestinians and Syrian getting reestablished. And like I said, it's really sad that they're just like, okay, we're going to move you. We're not going to fight for you to stay in your home, but we're going to just move you away. It's like, why are you moving people? And Gaza, it's kind of a big deal with Gaza because there's money there. And what I mean money, I'm talking about there are precious resources, we'll say that can make money in turn. And people have been kind of fighting over this strip of land for a long time because they want to have that full control over it. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced Israel's plans to take full control of Gaza and resume the flow of aid into the region. So for the details, Netanyahu said that Israel will increase its military attacks on Hamas Monday, while removing the aid blockade that it put in place in early March to allow a basic quantity of food to be brought in. The Prime Minister said, we are going to take over all the areas of the strip, and added that the decision to allow in aid followed pressure from Israel's closest friends in the world. The Wall Street Journal, which is center bias, reported the decision to allow in aid passed without a vote in the Security Cabinet, according to an Israeli official. Some far-right lawmakers have said they oppose any aid entering Gaza as long as there are hostages there. But Netanyahu said if Gaza reached famine levels, people simply won't support us. We won't be able to complete the mission of victory. Members of the U.S. Senate reportedly said the images of extreme hunger from Gaza could affect their support of Israel. Yeah, so this is a mess. It's just a mess because you've got terrorist activity still going on in there, and you're not really gutting that out because you don't want to harm innocent people there. But at the same time, you're trying to starve them out, but you can't starve the people that are there. And I was like, well, we need people to vote for us. We can't starve them. First things first, get people to safety. Why are there still hostages there? Like, why? It's messy. It's messy. The aid blockade has led to nearly 500,000 people facing starvation, according to the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Partnership. Israel's stated goals in increasing military attacks are to push Hamas to return the remaining hostages and demilitarize. So that their goal is to increase military attacks or to push Hamas to return the remain. Okay, so far your attacks haven't worked because they're still there and people are starving. I don't know. Like I said, it's messy and it keeps getting worse. And I really hope that they're going to be able to sort this out because Gaza seems really important to a whole lot of people. So, and it's that it all comes back to money, right? What they can make money off of on the Gaza Strip. Now, are they trying to starve people out so they can just move in and be like, oops, sorry you died. Sorry you didn't have any food, but we got to clean this mess up. Or are they just trying to make it look like a best effort? And if they end up bombing it and killing people anyway, it's like, well, we had to do what we had to do. Again, both outcomes are extremely messy and it ends up with innocent people losing their lives so you can have money. That's why we're here. It's disgusting. So NBC that leans left highlighted the increasing death toll in Gaza, including children, and put a strong focus on the humanitarian crisis in the region. The Washington Examiner that leans right and Epic Times that leans right emphasized the international pressure shaping Netanyahu's decision in their headlines. Yeah, everybody wants him to fix this, but is there really any fixing it if you're not really focused on getting the terrorist organizations out of there? You have a military focused on getting the terrorist organizations out of there and save the innocent people. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think they can do it. I think they have the capacity and the ability to do it. The question is, are they? The question is, are they going to do the right thing? Are they going to sit back and continue to let people starve? And that's the disgusting part, right? Are they going to allow people to starve? Saying, well, if we send food, we might be supporting the terrorists. But you know where the terrorists are, so just get them out of there. Just get them out of there. Because that's what people need. That's what people need you to do. Again, with a lot of these leaders, people just want you to do your job. To the best of your ability, of course, absolutely. But people want you to do your job. And when you are not doing that, it shows. It shows in your movement, what you do, and how you're effectively governing. It's crazy that has been going on years that Israel has been in conflict. Even Ukraine and Russia, they've been in conflict as well. And it's been years without resolve. And I'm just like, okay, that's where we're at. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to look at the influencer bias chart. If you guys haven't seen this yet, on all sides. And what they decided to do is they went on X and they have a bias chart, which I think is actually really cool to look at. And so what it does is it gives different influencers on X a biasy rating, right? So if you are listening to David Hogg, some of these on the far left are kind of obvious. You kind of know where they stand, right? You really do. Some you might not think are that far left, but they are. And then we get over here to center left, like Mark Cuban, he's center left. And then you get to those that are center, like Joe Rogan. He's definitely a center. Bill Maher is actually coming, to me, he's always been center. He's always just been a common sense kind of person, even though he mixes it with humor. And a lot of people say, well, he's a leftist and he's this, he's that. He's somebody who speaks his mind. He's been speaking his mind for a long, long time, his show was on. I mean, if you look up old clips where they all used to sit around on the couches and different things, back in the late 90s, he's been doing his show for a long time. So he's always been center. And then you've got some that are center right, like Dr. Phil and Andy No. And then you have those that are far right, like Ben Shapiro, Benny Johnson, Candace Owens, the Hodge twins, and let's see, Tucker Carlson. So I like how they kind of fleshed out this chart. I haven't seen anything like it in media, but it says it's influencer bias, and our views are shaped by a lot of the people that we associate with, relate to, right? And hear their messaging. But it's good that we know where they stand, right? Because that's what they're going to push. But listen to other voices as well so that you get a full body of the information. And that's why I use all sides to bring you guys the news and to aggregate the news for you as you're listening to this podcast, because I want you to be informed and I want you to know when you're listening to certain outlets what their views are, right? How they are actually bringing you the information. Because you might be listening to one that's like, wow, that sounds kind of, on the far left. I thought you were on the right. But sometimes that person might be, really on the left and you just not know it. That's the thing. So, this is bad. So, and this is just, I like the way they even break down analysis, fact checking, opinion, what's just the news, right? It doesn't get into if it's political or not. It just says it's news, it's opinion, and I want to check out this one, this opinion piece. It's a Biden gate is the anti-Watergate. I got to see this. I got to take up this opinion piece, you guys, just to look into and see like, what's going on here. So this is brought to us, doesn't say who's writing this. I was trying to see who the author of it was, but it's an opinion piece. It says the media loves to self-mythologize. It sees itself as a body crucially responsible for speaking truth to power. This self-image crystallized in the aftermath of Watergate. In it, the press served as bold, brave, fearless, and non-partisan defenders of truth and the ordinary man. Now, if that self-image were created via the successful takedown of one American president, it has been undone by a kind of anti-Watergate, the recent failed effort to keep another one in post. Wow. Okay, this is interesting. Like I said, I like to, kind of see these views. Okay, and this is from Unheard. This isn't an outlet I'm familiar with. The author is Mary Harrington. It was written May 20th, so it was just posted a few minutes ago. But Bidengate is the anti-Watergate. Democracy has died in darkness. Wow. Okay. Let us know how you really feel. Okay. Close that. So when did the Biden cover-up begin? Last week, Axios published audio files from the 2023 investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents, in which Biden is questioned about his recollections. The recordings are both pitiful and shocking. Never mind America's nuclear codes. In them, Biden sounds like he might struggle with the TV remote. The audio was released just ahead of reports that Biden, now 82, is suffering from aggressive prostate cancer. I wish him a speedy recovery. but this is unlikely to be aided by publications this week of Original Sin, a new book by CNN political anchor Jake Tapper. The book documents Biden's physical and cognitive decline during his presidency, along with concerted effort by aides and sympathetic media to smooth over this decline, allowing Biden to continue in office. Amid this slew of revelations as the Biden's frailty and the extent of the cover-up, both allies and enemies are asking, how did this happen? What? What do you mean, how did this happen? You shoved this down our throats. And if we said anything in opposition, it was like, you're going to lose your account. You're canceled. We're going to just come after you. How dare you say this man isn't in his prime? How dare you? And it's interesting, Jake Tapper writing this book, talking about his physical and cognitive decline, when if you said anything like that, like, you were going to get that smoke from Mr. Tapper on CNN. And he gave it to, I want to say, Laura Trump. Yeah, she was on his show. And he gave her that smoke like, how dare you talk about President Biden like that? How dare you? You're not a medical doctor. I mean, he ran her down. Now you've got a book? Our attention spans are not that short. I'm just saying, they're not that short. And these videos are forever. Okay? Forever. Not for 5 seconds. Sorry, y'all. I should have made this bigger when I was reading it. I usually try to do that. But yeah, really? Come on, don't do this to me. Making my life difficult. No, I don't want to subscribe. But yeah, this is really crazy. I'll read a little bit of paragraph and then we'll take a break. But Watergate was long mythologized as a foundational movement in modern American politics. Its scandalous impact, coverage, and the eventual resignation of Nixon in 1974 were so profoundly formative of an age, in fact, that these events spawned perhaps the quintessential political scandal suffix appended to any noun, gate, has come to denote a political brouhaha that generates so much media noise it triggers major change, such as a leader's resignation, such as recently the Partygate that scorched Boris Johnson in 2023. So if you want to read further this article, check out unheard.com. And this story was brought to us by Mary Harrington today, May 20th, 2025. And with that, we're going to take a short break and I will see you guys on the other side.
All sides.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. So we're in our last segment here, and I just wanted to, pull up a story that I found from the Hill, and they are center. I usually try to stick to stories that are on the center as opposed to left or right, or if some of the other news articles that I pull up, I like it showing the different perspectives from different parts of the media. But this is from the Hill. It says GOP battles to threaten to torpedo Trump package. Okay, so we always have known about the I want to say the inner struggles of the GOP, because there are people that are more make America great again mindset. And then you have others that are more traditional conservatives. And then you have rhinos, right? Republican in name only, where they are a part of the party, but they truly are not conservatives according to the definition of what some may consider conservative. So, with just days until Speaker Mike Johnson, representative of Louisiana, self imposed Memorial Day deadline, House Republicans are wearing over a host of critical issues that threaten to upend the GOP's plan to pass its big, beautiful bill. The battle lines pit conservative spending hawks who want to mitigate the deficit impact of the package against vulnerable moderates fighting to preserve federal health care benefits and secure a controversial tax break in high income districts. Republicans on the House Budget Committee advanced the legislation in a rare late night Sunday vote. But the conservatives on the panel, I really wanted to read through this because, again, we did take a deep dive into the big, beautiful bill. We looked at it. We also looked at the Inflation Reduction Act, and we also looked at the Appropriations Act of 2021. And I wanted to, take the time and look at those different parts going on, because the big, beautiful bill should be undoing some things in the Appropriations Act and also in the Inflation Reduction Act to get us closer to where we need to be. I'm going to keep saying it. I think they should really suspend all payments to members of Congress. They should no longer be receiving a salary until we have a balanced budget. I think that would actually get people to do their jobs, or they would probably quit because they'd be like, I can't survive. And then they would just, be on talk shows and, become newscasters because they're not real legislatures. I'm just saying, take away the money and it will show you who they are. Okay, so I'm going to continue to read on. But the conservatives on the panel made clear that while they allowed the package to move forward, their ultimate support would be contingent on significant changes to provisions surrounding Medicaid and green energy tax credits. Moderate Republicans from high-tax states, meanwhile, are digging in on the state and local tax deduction. So the talks have spanned months, but a resolution has proven elusive. And Johnson, while voicing public confidence that the package will pass through the House this week, is also acknowledging that the stubborn sticking points will require days, not hours, to unglue. None of that has been ultimately and finally decided because, as everyone knows around here, we have to build consensus around all those ideas, he said. We're almost there, and I'm very optimistic that we will find the right equilibrium point to get this bill delivered. The speaker, however, appears ready to put his lobbying campaign into overdrive. With some assistance, President Trump is scheduled to attend the House GOP's weekly conference meeting Tuesday, when he will have to convince some skeptical holdouts to back the sprawling package. Yeah, so I guess Tuesday would be today. So hopefully that's tracking, and they'll be meeting and they'll be able to come to this resolve. Because, unfortunately, we're spending money we don't have. And I think a lot of that is because we're spending it in areas that are outside of America. We spend billions of dollars overseas in places to, help them out, right? So we're just handing out welfare to everybody, but we want to come down on the people, to getting welfare here. And what I have to say to that is, okay, there are people on welfare that we want to see transition off of welfare. What are we putting in place to help them? Right? Are we helping them to get a job that's just going to pay them $15 an hour, which more than likely is going to keep them in consistent poverty? Or are we really educating them so they can have a six-figure salary and really take care of themselves and their family? Right? We're not doing the latter, because if we were doing the latter, we wouldn't even be having a conversation about welfare, because we wouldn't have people on it. We wouldn't have people from overseas on welfare. We wouldn't be giving welfare to other countries. We really need to get back to making things in this country and teaching people how to utilize their hands and their minds to make things and not just buy things, right? I think we definitely spend a lot of money. I know in the Black community, we spend a ton of money. And the reason why our dollars are so high up on money is because in our own communities, we don't own a lot of the businesses in our own communities. So those dollars do not recycle. And those are things that I really want to see changed. I know everything won't be changed under this administration, but I think there are some policies that Donald Trump wants to pass that'll give it that kickstart. So I'm going to read this last little part, and then I'm going to let y'all go for today. But it says, over the weekend, the president was in direct conversation and communication with the Speaker of the House. He's been very involved. He always is, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Monday. Before Trump's planned visit, before Trump's planned visit had been announced, he's willing to pick up the phone when he is asked to. He'll continue to be very engaged in this process with both House members and his friends on the Senate side as well. Top Republicans, though, have their work cut out for them. The unfinished nature of the Trump agenda bill was on full display Monday morning when House GOP leadership staff briefed reporters on the current state of play. The main takeaway of which was that nothing is final until it's final. And it's not. And, a lot of these bills, even when they're passed, they're still not final. They're still negotiating, right? When they are getting these bills finalized, like down to the last wire. But you know what? I'm okay with them taking their time. I really, really am. I want them to pass a bill that's actually, in effect, going to support America and not support nonsense, because that's why we're here. This is what we voted for, and it's up to us to hold their feet to the fire, so if you know who your Senate leaders are for your state, your House representatives, reach out to them and make sure you're letting them know, hey, these are things I agree with the bill. These are things I don't agree with the bill. If you Google the one big beautiful bill, you will actually come up, with this website, and it's in a PDF form, and it's from the Means and Ways Committee. I'm sorry, the Ways and Means Committee by Chairman Jason Smith, and really read and look through it. And if you have a concern, reach out to your members of Congress and tell them, look, I don't like this. I need you to change this, because they need us in their ears to make better decisions. They really, really do. And with that, I'm going to shut it down for today. But thank you, everybody, for joining me. You can always leave me a comment. If you are on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. If you are on Facebook, definitely like and share. And if you are on X, you can follow me at It's Our Turn RP. And as I say, they call it retweeting the space, but definitely retweet and let me know what your thoughts are. And let me know if there's anything that you guys want me to look up or go over on the show. We are here Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. And my name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, bringing you the news unfiltered on Unfiltered Vision News. And I will see you guys on the next one.